And good afternoon, everyone. This is Jason Horsch from Xanadu Gallery. I'm here with Barney Davey of artprintissues.com, and we're here for our occasional podcast together. Hi, Barney.
Hi, Jason. As always, good to be with you once again.
Good to talk to you. And as any of you have attended before know, this is a more of a podcast format. We also, both Barney and I, do workshops and webinars where it's a little bit more formal and, step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of thing. The podcast is more of a discussion, but we're going to be giving you some concrete action items that you can walk away with hopefully today on the topic of blogging. And just after sending out our invitation to this, we found this is a hot topic amongst artists. A lot of artists have questions about blogs. They're interested in blogging. They want to know if they should devote any time to it. Is it worth the effort? And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. Before we dive into it, I do want to just briefly go over some of the details of how the broadcast works. Any of those of you who've attended before know the ins and outs, but those of you who are here for the first time, it'll help you to know that you can participate in several ways. You're going to be able to watch the slides as they come up on your screen. Again, in this podcast format, there's going to be a little bit less content because it is less formal, but you'll be able to listen to the discussion. And then most importantly, this is an interactive format where you can ask questions. So on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see that you have a control panel. One of the boxes on the control panel is the question box. Anything that you type into that box we'll be able to see and respond to, or at least we'll try and respond to as many as we can. And then at the end of the broadcast, we'll open up the microphone to you. If you want to come in audibly, you'll be able to participate, and I'll give you instructions at that time on how you can do that. I'll also mention that we are recording this broadcast, and we'll have it up on our blogs afterwards so that you can download the recording, listen to it again at your convenience if you'd like. To begin, I'd like to just run a quick poll. Let's see if I can get it here. And this is related to your blogging, and the question is, how often do you blog? And we'll let you all start voting there. And as they're voting, Barney, let's dive right into the conversation and just start. I'll mention that we both do have blogs. Barney is, I think, the more experienced blogger than I am. How long have you been running blogs now, Barney?
I started with Art Print Issues as a blog in 2007, and it's currently running close to 500 posts on it.
Excellent. And I have run Red Dot Blog since 2009, and I think if I did a post count, I'm somewhere in the mid-150s or somewhere like that. So we both do have blog experience, but I'm going to defer to Barney on some of the issues, and I'm going to be learning as much as some of you are. So let me go ahead and close this poll and just quickly share the results. I see that we have a good variety. About a third of those in attendance don't blog at this point and are probably curious to find out if it's worth the time and effort and how to do it if it is. 31% have blogs but don't blog that frequently, 17% twice a month or more, and 16% weekly. 2% are blogging on a day-to-day basis. And I don't think those results come as too much of a surprise, Barney?
No, not at all. That's pretty much what I would expect to see. My personal feeling is that blogging is really an important tool for artists, and they can get a great deal out of it, but it needs to become kind of an ingrained habit for not only artists but your readers. And the only way to do that is be consistent. So I would tell anybody who's seriously looking at blogging as a way to enhance their business, and that's really the only reason why you want to blog. You don't want to blog because you just want people to get warm and fuzzy. You want to blog because you want people to get to know about you, know more about you on a personal level, and then be more interested in you as a person, and consequently in potentially buying art from you. So I think anything less than weekly, you're really watering down your efforts. If you can't get weekly, try to at least don't say twice a month, go for 3 times a month. Weekly is, I think, doable if you discipline yourself to spend the time to work on it. And I know a great deal of the probability is, what do I blog about, and we can get into that in a little bit more detail.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go down to some nuts and bolts first. And what do you think about blogging platforms? What for an artist who doesn't have a blog at all, where would you start in terms of platform? I use a WordPress blog site. What are your thoughts on platforms?
My Art Print Issues is on TypePad, typepad.com. It's a more than adequate professional solution for blogging. I like it better than Blogger or Blogspot personally, because I think the templates offer a little bit more. I got started on it in 2007, and I didn't really know what I was doing. I knew I wanted to do a blog. I'd been doing an online PDF download newsletter called Art Print Issues for a couple of years, and I could see that blogging was the future and wanted to get involved. And at the time, WordPress was not then what it is now. Mm-hmm. In retrospect, if I had the chance, I would have started in WordPress. And one of my goals for 2012 is to actually move Art Print Issues off of TypePad onto WordPress, but it's not a pressing issue. I'm doing well with it the way it is. So I like WordPress #1. It is more technically challenging than something like Blogger, Blogspot, or TypePad. Tumblr, TUMBLR.com, has quickly become a huge blogging platform for all kinds of things. So I don't know much about it. It's another one of those free services. So I would definitely look at Tumblr. Frankly, at the end of the day, the platform is secondary to the content.
Yeah, I've spent a good amount of time on artist blogs, and it's pretty rare that I'll even pay attention to what the platform was. Like you say, it's more about what's on the blog site than the platform per se.
If you have the choice and you're technically inclined, WordPress is the way to go. It gives you the most flexibility of any other situation that you'd come into. But if you're already down the path on Blogspot or Blogger or TypePad or Tumblr, that I would worry more about the content than the platform. Excellent.
We already talked about a little bit about the frequency of blogging. I'm just going to say that for our blog, it kind of seemed like it was important for us initially to start to get to readership to have a good body of articles there. And so for a while we were blogging daily to start building those up, and now we try to blog at least 3 or 4 times a week and are ramping that up as well. But I think I will agree with you that it is just a matter of setting aside some time and saying, I'm going to be dedicated that during this time, an hour a week or whatever it is, I'm going to be dedicated to making a blog post. And I think for an artist that would be the same kind of commitment that would be required, is to find a dedicated time. And then obviously if you can have some shortcuts so you know what you're going to be blogging about, I think that can be one of the biggest challenges in terms of creating consistency.
Here's a tip that I use for posts. I have probably 30 to 50, I'm not even sure, posts that are drafts. A lot of them just have the subject line. An idea for a blog will come to me. I want to get it down somewhere to remember, so why not just I go in and compose and put in the subject line, or maybe a few bullet points about something that I want to talk about. I have one I just wrote last night. I just made the title, "No One Will Do It For You." It just occurred to me, isn't that so true? Nobody's going to do the painting for you. You can't, essentially nobody's going to carry your water for you. It's in life, in art, and in art marketing, and so that's going to germinate with me for a while. I've had some of these things that it's been a year or 18 months before I actually got around to writing the post, but the thought was been in the back of my mind, and sometimes as I get other thoughts that relate to it, I'll go back to that draft, throw in a few more points, and before I know it, there's a bunch of stuff in there. When I get around to, hey, now's the day I'm going to write about that, it's a lot of the content is already there for me. So that's an easy way to keep track of random ideas that you might get for blog topics.
Yeah.
And I'll throw in a picture for art print issues. If you go to art print issues, and you'll find under popular topics, it's a column on the sidebar. One of the most popular, highly read blog posts that I've ever written is 52 blog posts, 52 topics for artists, something to that effect. I don't have it up right in front of me at the moment, but I sat down and wrote what I thought were 52 pretty good ideas for that artists could use to post about that, and none of them were, I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch.
Right.
Some of them that come to mind were who inspired me to be an artist. What I talk about, you're an art teacher. Maybe it's that moment in your life when you wanted to become an artist, or what's going on in your art community. Who are some other artists, contemporary artists, or friends of yours that you like? So it doesn't have to be all about you and here's my latest piece of work. It can be about your whole experience of being an artist, or just even your whole experience of being a human being. If you went and saw the movie The Artist and you were moved by something in that, you should write about it. Or I wrote a post once about comparing, talking about American Idol and art, and I know a lot of people want to, go give me a break, but there are analogies between what happens in the art business with something, making a break and getting successful, and the things that those kids on American Idol go through. It was a very popular post. It surprised me. I thought I would get a lot of jeers, but in fact I got a lot of people who were writing to say, I agree with that. It was interesting.
Yeah, and I find, and in the gallery, where we have the opportunity on a day-to-day basis to be interacting with customers and talking to them about the artwork, that collectors and potential buyers are really fascinated to understand the inspiration behind a piece of artwork. They want to know the story about how it was created, why the artist was drawn to that subject matter. And a blog is the perfect medium for sharing that kind of information, that kind of narrative, that kind of story. And so I think that it makes a world of sense for an artist as they're creating new pieces to share those new pieces on the blog, and to write a short post about the inspiration and the story of creating that. And I think that just the exercise of writing that story out and sharing it on the blog, even if your collectors don't necessarily end up seeing it there, well, the next time you have a show or you're at an art event, you've already thought about the story and worked through some of the narrative, and you're going to be better at sharing that story. So in some ways, I think that an artist's blog can be a great tool for just fleshing out some of your thoughts about your work. A lot of times, I think when a collector's looking at an artist's website and maybe links onto the blog, they're probably, in reality, they're not likely to subscribe to your blog and to spend hours every week following your blog. They're probably going to go through and spend maybe one or two visits looking at your artwork. And so being able to go back and look at your stories about your artwork, I think is going to be very valuable from a collector's perspective as they're looking at that blog. It's kind of an additional tool to what you have maybe on your website.
That's a good point. I think educating people in that way, in a narrative way about your art, is a great way for you to help collectors get enthusiasm for other potential collectors. Because what I've noticed is when I go into someone's home and I admire a piece of art, and I'm talking about somebody who buys original art or buys really nice prints and obviously has an appreciation for art. If I go somewhere in someone's home and say, that's a really great piece of art, I like it, or whatever it is I say, invariably I find that person wanting to tell me as much as they can about the artist and maybe where they bought it. I bought that at a gallery when I was on vacation in Scottsdale on Main Street, and this gallery, this artist does this, he uses this technique, or he has this
Yeah,
inspiration.
absolutely.
They love to share that. And so if you give them the narrative, and maybe even think of it in this way in terms of writing those posts, what would I like my audience, my collectors, to share with other with other people who might encounter that art?
Yeah.
So it might give you a slightly different perspective in terms of how you're going to read it. But that's the kind of thing that can really give you legs with a blog post, and help your collectors feel better about what they bought and share that with others along the way.
Yeah, and I think kind of along those same lines, talking about experiences that you're having with your art. If you're participating in a show or a festival, after it's over, write up a brief review of what happened at the show and your experience. If you can get photographs of yourself, with some of your customers, creating some human interest that future collectors can see. I find that collectors, they want to be a part of something. They want it to be, maybe I wouldn't say that they feel like they have to like something that other people like, but seeing that there are other collectors out there who also like your work is going to reinforce their sense that your work is good and worth looking at. And so sharing that, if you can get testimonials from clients who have your work, sharing that on your blog would be worth its weight in gold. Ask your customers, past customers, for a testimonial about what the artwork's done for their home, how they've shared it with their family, and if you could post photos of the artwork installed in their home, again, worth its weight in gold. And I'd be posting those on your blog and on your website.
I'll see that and double down on that exact idea and say, if you can take it even a further step, and I know this isn't going to be for everybody, but if you can take a webcam with you. Most smartphones these days have got pretty good video cams in them. If somebody's willing to give you a video testimonial, or you can have a third person hold the camera while you talk to somebody, tell me, that's fantastic. Google loves videos. So if you can get a video on your blog, that's way more interesting to many people than just reading something or seeing a picture. It doesn't necessarily have to be at a show. It could just be you in your gallery setting, or you talking about something, or you having a conversation with another artist. Use your creativity there. But if you're unafraid of getting in front of the camera, or just at least talking with the camera on, you can do great things with video. They call it vlogging or video blogging. It's fantastic what you can do with it. If you want to see a great example of it, go to Val's Art Diary, BALSARTDIARY.com. She's a young, engaging artist who does fantastic with her video blogging, and I realize not everybody's going to have that kind of engaging personality that she is, but there's no reason why you can't take away from some of the ideas that she uses for how to get video to help her market her work and herself.
And the technology is making that easier and easier to do.
Yeah, I encourage artists in my art marketing workshop to look into nano green screen technology. The same thing that television studios just a few years ago were paying $250,000 for, to have a green screen so the weathercaster could stand in front of it and point to Iowa and say those poor suckers are getting killed with, tornadoes or freezing rain or whatever. You can get that now you can make it almost for nothing. There's instructions how to do it if you just search for it online, green screen technology. But you can also go to Amazon and buy a kit with the lights, the backdrop, and the software that allows you to create your own backdrop. You can have your art behind you while you're standing in front of it at the Grand Canyon, or you can be standing in the front of the Mona Lisa or the Sistine Chapel or something. If you want to get creative with it, for $160, I think is what the setup on Amazon costs. If I were an artist doing that, I would be jumping all over that, because the possibilities for it are endless. And YouTube is the second most trafficked search engine in the world, only behind Google. So that tells you that the popularity of art on our videos is tremendous, and you can embed them right into your blog. You just grab the embed code from the bottom of the YouTube video, slap it into your blog, and you can run right off your blog. So you get the advantage of having the video on your blog, but also getting the
on
millions
YouTube
of
as well.
Yeah, fantastic.
And for the next question then is, how long should a blog post be, or how long does it have to be?
Well, it doesn't need to be. I mean, here from an SEO, search engine optimization point of view, you will find the standard answer is 300 words. And I've used several SEO blogging software programs. One's called Scribe SEO that I think they charge about $30 a month for. You write your blog post, check it in Scribe, and it'll tell you where all it'll give you a grade on how well you're doing in terms of search engine optimization. I learned a lot from using Scribe SEO, and then decided I didn't want to pay for it anymore. So in my WordPress, there's a SEO program called Yoast. It sounds like toast with a Y, and they concur with Scribe SEO that 300 words is the minimum from Google's perspective in terms of analyzing a site and looking at how much content is here. If you want to get page rankings for your site, you need to have enough content. Google and the other search engines come down to one word in terms of what they're looking for: relevancy. They are looking for relevant content. So if you're talking about orchid paintings done in pastels, then you should have about 300 words, and orchid paintings done in pastels, or whatever the keywords are, should be repeated about 4% of the time throughout the blog post. And you should also have links in your blog post, hyperlinks, outbound links in your blog post. But I know 300 words sounds like a lot, but it's not really if you're talking about something that you're passionate for. My trouble is, you can tell because I don't shut up.
Limiting yourself to 300 words.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm at 800 and I wanted to be 300. So try to shoot for 300.
How important do you think it is to be thinking about SEO for an artist who's working on their blog? How in terms of converting into traffic, how much effort should an artist be putting into thinking about SEO? And for those of you who don't know, it's search engine optimization. I should just state that.
Yeah, and SEO is just going through certain techniques, or massaging your blog post, or your web page for that matter, so that it's more acceptable to what's called Google's algorithms. Google has about 200 different measures that they look at when they crawl a web page or a blog post, and what the result is, the more you optimize the site for that search engine as it crawls it, the more likely you are to rank higher. So the I think it's worth it. You'll hear people say, don't spend a huge amount of time on it because you don't get
the ROI
you don't get
isn't quite.
Yeah, exactly. That you don't get the payback from it for doing it. My take on it is probably true that you're not going to build a art business based on having high page rankings for something unless you just are so focused on doing orchids or something like that. But if you're going to do it, and take a few extra minutes, learn the basics of SEO, and apply them, because it certainly doesn't hurt, and it might take you 5 or 10 minutes more to once you get the basics down on optimizing your site, to optimize it. So if you're going to go to the trouble to write the post, do the SEO, it's not the end of the world if you don't, because SEO probably isn't going to be the bottom line driver on your art business.
Well, and if you're writing about topics that you're passionate about, and you can be consistent about doing that, hopefully you're going to get some natural, some natural search engine optimization. But we've definitely found with our blog that just even paying attention to a couple of details with search engine optimization has impacted our traffic. And I think the second part of that then is that you need to be tracking your traffic so you know what's working and where people are coming from to your blog. And we certainly keep an eye on our stats. What tools do you use, Barney, to keep track of your stats?
I use SiteMeter as a way to just show me how many page visits and unique visitors I get on a daily basis. I use Google Analytics to help me understand where the traffic's coming from. Is it coming from a search engine? Is it coming from a referral from another site? Is it coming from a referral from my BarneyDavy.com website? So that I get an idea of where it's coming from. Then I drill down further and find out what keywords are people searching that bring them to my site. If you're using WordPress, they have some built-in, or they have some plugins that you can get for Yoast for SEO, and there's also site statistic plugins that you can use.
We use StatCounter.com is one that
StatCounter is another. Yeah, StatCounter works great. Any of them, artists aren't. This isn't like your Amazon, and you need to get it down so granular that it's ridiculous. You just need an overall idea of what's working. If you see a repetitive pattern where people are coming to your site based on some keywords, then you want to ramp up on that, and not every post, but just be cognizant of that. Helps. There's interest there. I should
blog about that topic more, and
yeah,
absolutely. And then what about the name of both the name of your blog and your URL for the blog?
Always a big discussion about that. I think in a perfect world, you should have your name in the domain name for your website and or your blog, and that they should be the same. Going back, because I started in 2007 with artprintissues.com, I might do, and I have Art Print Issues, but if you go to my site, it says by Barney Davy on it. So I'm branding myself that way with my tagline, so that people know that it's coming from me, because I'm using my website, BarneyDavy.com. You go there to learn about my books and my consulting and my workshops and so forth. I wish I'd hung it all together a little better. I didn't. So if you haven't done that, it's not the end of the world. I'm doing fine without it. But keywords, your name in the blog is very helpful, and having as much as you can be the same just helps you brand yourself. Some artists cringe at that word, but it's true. You are a brand of certain arts. We all are, to one degree or another. So the less you water down your brand by having a different name on your blog than you have on your website, the easier it is for you to drive traffic and create awareness for yourself as a brand. That all said, I'll come back to one of our first comments. Content is way more important than these kind of things. If you have this under your control, keep it the same. Have blog.artistwebsite.com like you see on the example there, or as much as possible have have continuity in both your blog and your website, and get your name in there if at all possible. If you don't have it in the title, your formal URL, your domain name, then do like I've done and get your name prominent on the blog so people, when they come there, it's visually apparent that this is your blog.
Excellent. And what about getting people to subscribe to your site using RSS feeds or mailing list providers? What do you think is going to be most effective for getting people to follow your blog?
Well, I'm the poster child for how to do it wrong. Like a lot of things, I didn't know what I was doing, and I just dove in there. So I rank. If you do a search for top 75 art blogs, there's a company called InvestP, INVESP.com, that ranks the top 75 art blogs. I'm one of them, which is pretty amazing to me because my topic is about the art business, but with an emphasis on the print market end of the art business, which makes it pretty esoteric or small compared to, most of the art blogs on there are art blogs that are consumer driven. So the reason I bring this up is I rank very high for RSS readership. RSS stands for Real Simple Syndication, and it's, if any of you use a Google Reader or a friend feed, then what you're doing is aggregating a bunch of blogs into one place where you can read them all at one time. You can even do it in Outlook. What happens is there's that little, it's like an orange square and it's got an R, or sometimes it just has diagonal lines across it. When you click on it, you can subscribe to an RSS feed, which means that it's brought into your reader. That's great, except that you don't know who those people are. I've got 1,000 people on a RSS feed. I don't know who they are. I can't send them an email to say I'm going to be in Santa Fe next month with a workshop. If they miss my blog post, I have no other way to communicate with them. So I'm a big fan of collecting email addresses first and foremost. It's a great way for you to build your business long term. So I would de-emphasize an RSS feed and emphasize using an email service like I use. If you subscribe on my blog now, I have prominently up at the top a place where you can subscribe to my blog, and it's managed by a company called MailChimp.com, which I'm fond of because they will allow you to have 2,000 subscribers free and mail up to 12,000 emails a month free. Nobody's given anything close to that in terms of, here's a great service, we're practically giving it to you. And I'm betting that most people listening to this don't have a list that exceeds 2,000. So this is a great way to get a free mailing service.
A great resource.
And a great resource. And so don't emphasize the RSS feeder. Yeah, it's more convenient for your readers, but you're trying to sell them something. This isn't about goodwill and totally at ease. If people are getting something from your blog, they should be willing, if you have enough content on there, coming back to content, if you have enough content on there that's of interest, people will give you their email address. And if you want...
there were a number of people who emailed in prior to the broadcast asking questions, and a lot of them were asking, how do I get people to my blog? It seems like the only way I can get people there is by sending out an email and almost kind of asking, how can I find other ways to do it? Well, I think that from my experience, the email is the best way to get people to the blog. So I would definitely emphasize building that mailing list both on the blog, and then anytime you are out at an event in the physical world, at an art show or an art festival, you want to make sure you're giving people an opportunity to sign up for your email list and then use that list to promote what's going on your blog and to increase the readership that way. I think Facebook is also another tool that's going to help get people to your blog. You should be definitely having, every time you post something to your blog, you want to post it on Twitter and Facebook so that your followers can see those blog posts. And they all kind of work in tandem. We became more successful, kind of with the whole social media blogging thing when I realized that for us, the best order to do things is to write the blog post and then base all of our social media content around that blog post so that there's kind of a cohesive theme for people to come to and read about there.
Very good point. Just a note: if you're taking a business card at somebody's at a show, you need to tell them or get their permission, even if it's just verbally. I'm going to add you to my mailing list. Somebody handing you a business card isn't carte blanche to just put them on your mailing list. You need to ask them or get their permission. A couple of other tricks that I think can be very useful in terms of developing more readership is one thing that you're really good at, Jason. You ask people to share the love. If you help me, forward this, let other people know about it, send this to 2 more people. Everything that you put out has got, pass it on or share this. And so that's one way you ask people to help you. Another way is to go on, comment on other find the most popular blogs out there and comment on them. If you're a decent writer, you can do a post, you can write an article for Huffington Post. They take contributed content. You can write the blog post, suggest writing guest blog post for other bloggers. I take guest blog posts. If you think you've got a good idea that's in line with the kind of material and information that I provide my artists, and you want to approach me about a guest blog post, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. I don't do it heavily because I want the blog post to be about me, but I will always entertain the idea of a guest blog post. So if you can get if you got 300 readers and you can get on somebody else's subscription list who's got 3,000 readers, that's a great way to get blog posts. So comment frequently on the post of other bloggers, and look for guest blog posts. A final one on that is give something away to people and then have them tell them about it. So give a mini print, give a high-res download of some image that people can use, and offer them, you can print this if you want, make a nice print out of it, just can't sell it. Hazel Dooney's done that, Banksy has done that, so there's no reason you can't copy that same idea. Give something away, give a little to get a little.
Excellent. And kind of a final point to talk about is e-commerce on the site. Does it make sense for an artist to have a shopping cart on their blog, to be kind of pushing the blog to be more of a commercial site than just a like say a narrative site?
I'm the believer that you're in business, and that we talked about this briefly, Jason, before when you were chatting just before we got started. 2 things. One, I think you should put your prices on there, and you should also, as long as you're selling something that isn't available through another venue where you have a trusted partner like a gallery, and this is only exclusively available through you, make it available. Put the prices on it and let somebody buy it from you. This is a 24/7 selling machine for you in some ways, so don't turn down the opportunity to sell from your blog. Your blog is going to get more traffic than your website, so in most cases.
I'm going to agree with that, and I think that you want to be a little bit careful. Speaking now from the gallery owner's perspective, you don't want to be sending a message to your galleries that, hey, I'm competing with you, or even potential galleries. And if you're showing with galleries, you might want to include the purchase information, pricing, size, etc., and then include language that if the visitor to the site is interested in purchasing, they can contact one of your galleries and then give the contact information. But I'm right along with Barney that if you don't have a gallery showing your work, absolutely make this a storefront where people can have that opportunity to buy. There's nothing wrong with letting people know that, hey, this artwork is for sale and it's very easy to purchase if you're interested in it.
As a follow-up to that, I think that I just was reading this in Internet Retailer magazine. I read a lot of different stuff. Just one line stuck out at me. Shipping is part of the buying experience. So let people know how it's going to be shipped. I've had this idea for a while, and I've been promoting it in my workshops, that a great video for you to have on your website is have somebody lay it all out and have somebody video you, or you video someone else, how your art is packaged. I think it'd be a great, interesting video. Okay, I just bought a piece of framed art from you. Let me show you the package, where it's going in, and how it's going to be sealed up and sent. Give some people, let them show what care you take with your art to begin with. I think Jason in his book mentions using white gloves. Great idea. Mm-hmm. Anyway, there's an idea. It could be pictures, it could be a video, but let them understand how this will be shipped. Not only what the cost is, but here's what the packaging is going to look like. There's more way to build in value and show professionalism for what you're doing.
We had a number of people in the invite. We requested that you send in your blogs if you'd like to have an opportunity to have them reviewed. We received more than we could possibly even look at, and I just want to spend a few minutes showing you some of the blogs that were sent in. And I think we're going to be careful. We're not trying to criticize the blogs. Maybe just give a little bit of critique and maybe talk about how some of the things that we've talked about apply to this. So I just want to, if it's all right, Bernie, I want to bring up a couple of images of
Sure.
blogs that we could look at. The first one wasn't sent in to us. This was one that you recommended, Barney. Why don't you talk about what you like about this blog?
Well, first of all, the content, she's just keeps going with great content, but then also just look at it, it's very clean. Small header, but to the point. She does have a sidebar. She has a single sidebar, and those are all relatable things to something else that she's done. She uses a lot of really good imagery in there. That image that you're showing up there now, that's interesting, I think, to a lot of people, just because it's showing art in a different context than just seeing a picture. It's showing it kind of in a gallery setting. She blogs consistently. She's well known. Contributes a lot of articles and is involved. Spends time doing workshops. She's raised her awareness with her blog, and it shows. She has Google has something called Google PageRank, and you can look at anybody's blog and see where they're at. It's not a 100% foolproof thing, but she's at a page rank of 5, and that's impressive. For an artist, a single artist, to be on a page rank of 5 is very impressive. And as you can see in the address bar up there, she's on Blogspot, joannematera.blogspot.com. So there's a proof that the platform is secondary to the content. Hazel Dooney, one of the most controversial and well-known and popular art bloggers out there, also uses Blogspot, although I think she's retired her self versus self blog after putting up 800 posts in about 4 years. She was really prolific. It shared everything about her life on that blog, way more than I dare say anybody that's listening to this would ever care to share, but that's just part of who she is. And hers is on Blogspot, so it's not that important.
Let's take a look at another one. This was one that was submitted to us, and this is Christine Montague Art WordPress.com. So this is a WordPress platform. And again, I think you can kind of see a couple things that you can see right away that she's doing well. She has an easy subscription, and that's the first thing you see there on the right is enter your email address to subscribe to this blog and receive notifications. And she's listed that she has 559 followers there. So obviously that's working for her. Any comments, Barney, on this blog?
Yeah, I would put the camera and canvas part at the bottom. It's making it too easy. You see, pardon me, do you see where below the search, if you scroll down just a little bit, Jason, you'll see the RSS post and comments. So you can subscribe to the post or the comments or both in your RSS reader. I don't want RSS readers. I'll take them if that's how they want it, but I'm going to make it more difficult for you to find that and way easier to subscribe to my email list, because I want you on my email list. I want to be able to have some other communication with you.
So your suggestion would be keep the email subscription where it is, but just move the RSS feeds down to perhaps the bottom of the blog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
And I think that I agree with that. I definitely would want the RSS feed there. Just speaking from a blog follower's perspective, I've been to some blogs before where I got irritated because I couldn't find a way to get them into my reader, and so you don't want to make them too hard to find. But
okay, yeah, I maybe the bottom is the wrong place, but I wouldn't make it right there beside the subscription. I would just rather the
yeah, I agree. You're giving them a choice, and they might choose the one you don't want them to.
Yeah, and if one thing I mentioned before is an offer, enter your email address to subscribe. Well, maybe when somebody subscribes and throw a little special in there, have them go into a landing page and give them something, free shipping on their next order, or that mini print or whatever it might be, round the world trip, or whatever's in your budget.
And I've got up on the screen right now a couple of comments on her blog. Let's talk just for a second about comments. Something that I've noticed recently with my blog is that if I want comments, I have to ask for them. What do you think about this topic, or what's your advice about this particular issue? When I do that, I get tons of response and conversation starts, and it creates a real sense of community and back and forth. But if I just post a topic, and even if I think it's the most fascinating topic in the world and I expect a lot of response, if I don't ask for the comments, I don't get them.
That's pretty typical. I would agree with that. And comments will help you rank higher in search engines. They'll look at that, because another one of the things that in the Google's algorithms that ranks high besides content is popularity. And popularity means comments on blogs or external links from another site to your blog. Those two things will ramp you up in Google searches.
Let's look at another blog. This is Brian Ida. And again, I think that I like the simplicity of his blog, and I also like, it's obvious he's a pretty image-oriented blog, and I find that interesting. Here it looks like I'm looking at images of the studio, and I think that a collector is going to find that interesting, and obviously just being able to see what's going on in an artist studio and what's going on in their lives, I think that's probably one of the best types of content you could give to a potential buyer of your work.
I would agree. When I was doing the Smartest Telesummit this year, I was on the panel with Jack White. Some of you may know him. He's one of the most prolific art marketing authors out there. I think he's got 12 books, and he's taught his wife, Mickey Sankarik, how to paint, and subsequently she's gone on to become a multi-million-dollar selling artist with Jack's help. And one of the things he talked about in terms of blogging was, I think they have 2,500 followers. One of the most popular things that Mickey does is show work in progress. So she sometimes videotapes it, or sometimes she just, there's pictures, but they can see how a work is progressing along. And with her interested followers, it's almost a way to, build in sales before she even gets to of the finished piece. So it's another idea for blog posts. If you had one of those a week and it took you a month, and maybe you paint it in a week, but you might spread it out over 4 weeks or however you want to do it. It's an easy way to get great content that's of interest, and for you to talk in depth about what you're doing and why you like these colors and what your influence was and so on.
And you can see Brian's subscription there. It's a pop-up. And then we've got another site, Ann May. This is a Blogspot site as well. Again, pretty simple design. For me, there's maybe a lot going on here with some of the sidebars and all the lines and different colors. But I think that it's still pretty easy to follow along and see what's going on. And you can see that Ann has made several posts recently, and seeing some things that I might not typically expect to see on an artist's website. So I think there might be some interest there.
I agree with that. There's not a lot of copy there, which is going to make it hard for a search engine to crawl it and say this is worth returning as a result. Something to mention, and every one of these that you've shown had this way. Put your sidebars on the right, especially if you've got images and other things on the left, because the sidebars will load last, and that means that your content will load first if it's on the left side, and you'll notice that your page speed load will go a little faster. And speaking of that, when you put your images up there, put just what you need. Don't put huge images up there. Because they take longer to download, and that slows your site down, and that is another Google algorithm. How fast your site loads does make a difference. So there's somebody who's not doing it the way I just said. It's not the end of the world if you're doing it that way. If you like the way it looks and you're happy with it, and it looks like from looking at this one, Joyce's site here, that she's got the images on the right. So if you're going to do that, have the stuff that's slower loading on the right-hand side as opposed to on the left.
And I wonder, on this one it has, again, the email subscription box over on the left. For me, where it says join 66 other followers, that number doesn't seem all that high, and I might almost feel like I'd want to maybe eliminate the count until I had a little bit higher number to be able to show there.
Right. Yeah.
Psychologically, I want to be following something that's pretty popular, and I don't think 66 is maybe the number that I'd want to see there.
I would agree with you. Just if there's a way to take that out of the subscription, do it until you get it up to a substantial number.
Well, let's take some questions now, and I realize we're running a little bit long, as we're wont to do typically, but this is a really interesting subject, and we've got a lot of great questions. I want to go first to some questions that I received prior to the broadcast by email, and the first one comes from Jeannie Thorne, and she's asking some fundamental questions, I think, that every artist would need to ask, and that is, as an artist, what should be the purpose of the blog? And I think we've touched on that a little bit to share narrative, and ultimately the purpose of the blog is to generate sales of the work, whether directly through the blog or by reinforcing the experience that the collector is having with you and with your work. Additional thoughts on that, Barney? Purpose of the blog?
Yeah, 100%. If it's not, you're in business. This is just a marketing platform for you to use. The unique thing about a blog is it allows you to be more personable with people who are essentially strangers in many cases. They can learn about you, and there is no other way to do this than through blogging. So the word blogs is a shortened of web blog, and it started off as just people who were journaling, writing about things that they were passionate about, even just themselves. And it's evolved into this, but don't get away from that. Keep it interesting, and not just about you. And every post shouldn't be about your new your new piece.
Okay.
It will help you.
Another question is it okay to discuss other topics on your blog, or should you just stick to your art? And I think we've kind of touched on that too, that you can have some variety there. I think as long as you can always tie it back around into the art in some way. It's probably going to be talking about NASCAR or something like that on your art website is probably going to be a little bit of a stretch. You may be the world's most passionate NASCAR fan, but that's maybe a little bit of a stretch to relate back to your art.
I agree, and politics and religion are even more so. If you're totally passionate about it and willing to cut off part of your potential audience because they're offended by your stances on certain things, go for it. But if this is, to me, I'm trying to use this to elevate myself as an artist and to help me sell, then I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't run things that are going to cause bias to you that you don't need to. That's not what this tool is about. Don't invest in it. This is way off subject, Jason. I just wanted to get it in here. I hope you don't mind.
No, not at all.
There's something called Gramlee, GRAMLEE.com. It's a professional proofreading service that's dirt cheap. I'm looking at their site now. You can buy words there and bank them. So you can buy 1,030 words, which should get you about 3 blog posts edited, proofread for $19.95. Turnaround is 24 hours or less. I've used them successfully many times, always been very happy with them. So if you're worried about your English and your grammar, use this service. It's great. It'll improve your writing dramatically. And what I've done is learn from when I see how Gramlee edited my stuff. I've gotten a better writer as a result. So I just wanted to get that in before I forgot about it.
Yeah, and certainly you'd want to be careful not to, we've been talking about your brand, and you don't want to be branding yourself as a poor writer. I know I'm a poor speller often, and my grammar sometimes could use some real help, so I try and make sure that everything I put out gets proofread and edited, so I think that's an excellent point. Lynn, and I'm going to have a hard time saying your last name, Lynn. It's Lynn Letourneau, asked the question basically about spam on the comments in the blog. What are the tools to avoid spam? I know I've certainly run into this on our blog, and you get more than just a little bit irritated sometimes by the volume of spam through the comments. Have you found any tools, Barney, that can help eliminate the spam?
If you're on WordPress, there is something called Akismet, AKISMET. TypePad has got a really fantastic spam blocker. I almost never see, the only kind of spam I see are people that are sending in sneaky comments that are mostly always written in poor English, that have nothing to do or very little to do with the blog post, which I immediately delete. But I'm not getting slammed with it. So I know Blogger's got something, but and I think you can subscribe to Akismet even if you're not on WordPress. I'm not 100% sure about that, but if you're really getting hammered with it, then you need to put some kind of CAPTCHA, CAPTCHA form on there that makes somebody prove that they're human, so that'll cut down on it too. It'll cut down a little bit on your comments, but if you're spending all your time weeding out spam, it's probably worth it.
Yeah, excellent. I'll just mention too that if you want to ask a question live, if you have a microphone attached to your computer, click on the yellow hand icon, and that lets me know that you have a question and have a microphone, and we'll try and get a few live questions in as well. In fact, let's try and go to a live question. Let me go to Eva Curie. Eva, how are you, and do you have a question? Boy, Eva, I've got you unmuted, but we may not be connecting to your microphone, unfortunately. Let me try another one here. Brenda Kelleher. Brenda, are you there, and do you have a question?
I don't know if you can hear me.
We've got you loud and clear, Brenda.
Oh, wow. I'm sorry, I just missed a few minutes of the call because a call came in. Are you posting a replay?
Yes, we will be posting a recording of the broadcast. I'll post it on red.blog.com. Barney, will you be posting the link to the recording as well?
Yeah, I will. Have a link up here sometime in the next few days.
Okay, perfect. So we'll make it amply available.
This is absolutely terrific. Thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Brenda. Appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
And let me go to Jamie Hagenberger. Jamie, are you there, and do you have a question?
Yes. I was actually wondering how these guidelines kind of maybe alter if you're representing an organization of artists. If the frequency needs to be a little bit different, how you manage that brand, and specifically how we get member events not really advertised, but mentioned and covered without it seeming like an advertisement to the rest of the world.
Yeah, that's a great comment and question, and I think that the blog is the perfect tool for that, because it does give you a little bit of an air of impartiality to a certain degree. It almost feels more like a news in a way than it does just pure promotion. What are your thoughts, Barney?
Well, if you got an organization and it's a group of artists that are in a coalition or co-op or whatever it is, that organization needs its own brand to begin with. I would encourage every artist that's a member of that to have their own blog and to have links from the organization's blog to their blog and vice versa. It'll help both organizations rank higher for that popularity thing that I was talking about. And I know you get popularity thing, Jason, with your Xanadu Gallery online, having artists link back to you. That helps you get higher rankings, which in turn helps them get more views to their art. So it's a good thing. So I wouldn't worry about it being an advertisement. It is. Just be ethical about it. People want to know. If you're having an event, I want you to tell me about it. I expect you to tell me about it. I'll be mad if you don't. If there's something that I miss, so don't think you don't worry about hammering people too much. If you're excessive, you should know it. But you can probably be way more excessive and effusive in talking about what you're doing than you think you can.
Yeah. Well, and the other great thing about a blog is that as long as you're giving people ample opportunity to unsubscribe, they can filter themselves, and basically your following will tune itself to the amount of posts that you're doing. And so I agree with Barney. Don't worry too much about putting too much information out there. I think that's almost impossible to do. I personally follow some blogs in other realms, news, and I'm a fan of technology. Boy, I look at some of those blogs 2 or 3 times a week at a minimum. Some of them I look at daily, and I'm always happy to know more, and never feeling like they're overdoing it.
I subscribe too, Jason. I subscribe through email because I want to see how it comes. I don't use my reader that much, but I'll look at the subject matter. If it's not something of interest, I just pass on it. I'll catch it the next time. With an association, I understand if you got 20 people and you want to get everybody in, and you're only doing them once a week, or it's going to take 20 weeks for everybody to come around. So be creative. Think about ways to do, joint things or have sidebars. Look at Joanne Matera. She had a lot of little sidebar, interesting things going on that you could do with your various readers members who are involved. So there's other ways to highlight them besides just doing a blog post about them.
Now, Marcia Broderick asked the question through the question box. Many of us are working artists working on our art, maintaining Facebook business page, Google Plus account, and a blog. It seems like a full-time job in itself. If you had to pick which one would yield the most results for time invested, which would you suggest? Can you combine a blog with, say, your Facebook business page?
Absolutely. Like you mentioned, Jason, you can cross-post and make sure that you just anytime you write a blog post, it needs to be on Facebook. There's something called digital sharecropping, and that's where you're creating content for some other provider, like Facebook. You don't own Facebook. You don't get any email addresses off Facebook unless you go on a fan page and create a landing page and a way to get people to come to you. So blogs you own. That's your content, your rankings, and your way to get email addresses. So my opinion is
that should be the primary focus.
Right. Blogs come first, then look at how do I use social media to make my blog more important, not the other way around.
Yeah.
If you think of it from that perspective. I just listened to a podcast last night that I from a fellow who has a Facebook fan page called Get 10,000 Followers. I would look at that. He offers a lot of free information, and he got 10,000 followers in a matter of a few months for his how to swing a baseball bat Facebook fan page. So it's really possible, but he's getting subscribers to him through Facebook. That's the way you want to look at it. Use those. They're tools to feed back to the things that you own, like your blog or your website.
Yeah, and I think I would just I agree with that, and I think what I would add is that I understand that an artist can look at all the tools that are available, blogs, Facebook, Twitter, and start to feel a little bit overwhelmed and maybe even feel guilty. Should I be doing all this stuff? I'm not. I don't seem to have time for it. You really do, at the end of the day, have to make some decisions and prioritize. From a gallery perspective and from the question of making sales, your biggest priorities, in my opinion, ought to be first and foremost on production. What can I be doing to devote as much time as possible to producing the best artwork that I can be producing and producing enough of it that I can build sales and build a following. And only after that is in place and after you have a good production base can you start thinking about some of these other things. So, I think that if you just don't feel like you have any more time in your week to set aside to be doing the blog and the Facebook, I wouldn't feel guilty about that right now. I work with some very successful artists who don't do any of the social media and don't have blogs and have built successful careers without any of that. But having said that, once you've mastered your production and if you have that interest in reaching out and using some of these new tools to reach potential customers, then take some of the suggestions that we've made this evening and come up with a plan. Don't let it take over your life and become an obsession for you. Find a way that you can reasonably set aside some time and just start working on it. It may take several years to get enough posts to get followers, and if that's what your schedule allows, I have no problem with that. But they are powerful tools, and once you get them going, they're a lot of fun and can create some real lasting connections with your customers. Any final thoughts, Barney? We've run over time once again, but it's been a great discussion, and I know that it's been very beneficial for a lot of the people who've attended. So.
You used the word tools several times there, so let me give you the tool that I use that helps me be productive. It's called Hootsuite. That's HOOTSUITE.com. Hootsuite is an aggregator. I can log on to Hootsuite and see all of my Facebook posts, all of my Twitter posts, and I can schedule posts on Twitter and Facebook. Quite often I'll go in and I don't Twitter every day. I sometimes don't even Twitter more than once or twice a week. I try to be on Facebook a little more than that because I think it's more personal. But I use Hootsuite for both. If I'm in the mood, I'll sit down in an hour and I can crank out 15 tweets that I'll space them out over a week using Hootsuite's scheduler. So they're just going to go out. They're kind of generic things I found that are in interest. Here's a great SEO article, or here's an artist that I like, whatever it is. So use Hootsuite as a tremendous productivity tool for you. It allows you to take that time, create a body of tweets or Facebook posts that you might want to put out, and space them out over a period of time so you're not running back to the computer. It's 5 o'clock. I want to get that post out. Do it all on Sunday night, and don't worry about it for the rest of the week if you want to.
Well, excellent. Well, Barney, thank you again for joining me for the conversation. It's always a pleasure to spend time together, and we'll hope that it's been beneficial for those of you who've been in attendance. We'll be doing more of these, so keep your eye on your email for announcements of upcoming broadcasts. And again, there will be a recording of this session available, probably will be up on our site by tomorrow. And so we look forward to seeing you all in future broadcasts. Thank you very much.
Good night, Jason. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.